everybody, this is Shels from Let's Talk About the Music, LTATM. So, this is episode 25 on solo women artists. Okay. Now, before we get started, I have a couple announcements. All righty. One, I have redesigned the website. So please go check out LTATM.com or let's talk about the music.com. It all leads to the exact same website. So LTATM.com and let's talk about the music.com. Groovy? Alrighty. And the second announcement is that if you're interested in knowing I'm going to be launching my membership only perks and treasures and all that stuff, including my membership only podcast. So if you want to be involved with that, go sign up for the newsletter on the website. So everyone who's already on my newsletter is going to get the first dibs on their membership benefits. Okay. Alrighty. So again, LCATM.com or let's talk about the music.com. It just leads to the exact same website. Alrighty. I was also told that I need to bring back the history before the interview because it kind of breaks everything up. Because I was trying to do everything in one with the audio, with the interview, but it didn't work out. So I'm bringing back the history on this episode. Alrighty. So I have a script. I'm going to do my best to talk to you about it and not read it. Okay, here we go. I can bring my notes over here. It'd be great. All right. You know, women have been making music for a long time, right? You guys know that? Well, now you do. So, way back in ancient Greece and Rome, women sing in rituals and festivals, including the Empire China. They performed the royal courts, and in medieval European convents gave women the space to learn music, and some earliest known as composers came from those communities. Fast forward to a woman named Casa, the 9th century composer whose hymns are still sung today, or Hengrid, who was created emotional spiritual music back in the 1100s. Now, a game changer came from Florence Pierce, a first Black woman to have her own music performance by a major U.S. orchestra. And then there's Ella Fitzgerald, who's also changed the decade in jazz. The list goes on, like Patsy Cline, Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, Whitney Houston, Tracy Chapman, and Janis Joplin. Each of them made waves in their own way, each of them changing how we hear music today. Now, this brings us to today. Here on Let's Talk About the Music, I have the honor to sit down with two amazing solo artists who are continuing that legacy. The artists like Elly and Marianne. They bring power and depth and honesty to their music in a way that cuts through all the noises. On this episode, we're going to discuss on real questions about them. Okay, like what's their favorite song to perform and how the internet changed their music, and what's it like being a woman in the industry. But first things first, Papa Satch, play that theme song for us. Hit it, guys!
Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the band. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the sound. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the music. All around. Let's talk about it.
Alrighty. Hey everybody, this is Shels here from Let's Talk About the Music. This is episode 25. This is on power solo women in the music industry. And we are joined with two lovely ladies. We have Miss Elly from New York, actually both from New York City. Elly is a folk singer and from New York City. She does an album called Blues Never Ends. So Elly, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, good to be here. I'm Elly Wininger, and I don't live in New York City anymore, although I did
Oh,
I did grow up there. I live in Athens, New York, which is a river town on the Hudson River, south of Albany, north of Kingston. I just moved here from Woodstock, where I lived for 30 years. So now you've located me geographically. I started playing guitar when I was 6 years old, and I've been playing ever since. And I've been a professional musician since the 60s. And here I am today. I'm known for the blues, but I write my own songs also, and play out as much as I possibly can. And yeah, that's the short intro, and we'll find out more later, I'm sure.
absolutely. All righty. And we are also joined with Mary Ann from New York. And what I researched, she has a truly unique music journey. So I'm going to have you tell us about that journey and yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Marianne, also not from New York City. Or you said you were from New York City. But I always wanted to be. And it's funny how you can't, that's not something that you can change, your origins, right? Um,
Right.
and before I go too much into my mother, she is from Manhattan. She was born in 1920. That's as far as it goes. I was born in Santa Barbara, California,
Okay.
and always had the same pasty tan that I have right now. Um, well, I'm a classically trained musician, um, meaning growing up playing piano and oboe and flute and this and that. And at one point, I defected from the classical world. It was actually second year of college. And I got into playing folk and my idea of the blues. And this is kind of trying to keep it shorter than it would otherwise be. Um, Taught myself slide guitar along the way and joined some blues and country rock bands in the San Francisco area. Um, Came through Nashville and got into the Nashville Symphony playing oboe for 10 years full time in the symphony. And uh, experimented with improvisation on oboe and flute and that kind of thing. But then when I came to New York, I really got into doing improvisation, meaning playing off the page. And that could mean anything, I realize. But just to keep it short, I made a record in 2005 called How the Light Gets In that was all improv, but it's very tonal mostly. Um, and now cut to now in the last 2 years since finding out about the whole Carl Berger free jazz third stream music, which is something people can look up if they're interested. And I got in with the creative music. It's called the Creative Improvisers Orchestra, and I've been playing oboe and English horn with them for the last 2 years. And that spawned a new kind of music for me. And it's more third stream, which is very off the page. I can't even say it's classically based, though we take our training and we kind of just go from there. And so I'm in a
Right.
really exciting quartet called NUMBQ, which stands for the New Michael Bizio Quartet. And our record just came out um, in February, and we just did a
Nice.
studio release. So that's my most fun type of music now. But I still do singer songwriter stuff when called upon.
Nice. Nice. So, alrighty. So we're going to dive into the questions. We're going to start in the creative progress. Well, and we first start think for quick. Why did you guys start into being a solo artist? Why didn't you guys join a band? We'll start with Ellie first.
Well, I've been in many bands and duos and trios and quartets, and you're always at the mercy of other people, whether it's, the lead singer is always late, or somebody's in a bad mood, or there's so many personality factors that come into playing in a band. And Whereas it's really fun sometimes, it can also be very frustrating if you're the one who shows up on time and has actually practiced and nobody else has. And I'm bossy. I'm bossy. I don't like other people changing things or telling me what to do. So being a solo artist suits my personality rather well. And because I like to be in charge. And I'm in
There you
charge
go.
of me, It's kind of like the
Right.
difference between kayaking and canoeing. When I'm in a kayak by myself, I'm the captain. When I'm in a canoe, I'm like always negotiating and who's in charge and all that stuff. So I find being a solo artist where it's harder work. You have to cover a lot more ground when you're on stage. You can't relax and just play a riff. So it's much more challenging, but it suits me.
Good. All right, now, Marianne, what about you? You bounce around between a band and solo artists. So how do you manage both?
Okay, so I'll put it in the singer-songwriter mode because, yeah, that's I've become more of a solo artist as a singer-songwriter for quite a few of the same reasons that Elly brought up, but maybe even more control freakdom in that I'm pretty demanding, and musically, it's even though I have my stuff charted out, it's hard to follow if a person is just following it for the first time. Okay, so I sometimes play in a duo with a bass player from time to time, and I am starting to do some other stuff oboistically with a fellow in the area, Jim Yanda, and we're kind of exploring what we're going to be doing. We started out as singer-songwriter, and then I realized, I think I need him to practice more of my stuff if we're going to play together. So we're moving more towards the improv, which he's incredible at. It doesn't tell you what it sounds like, but in a way, one can never explain what music sounds like. How could you explain what music sounds like? But so I do long for a band. I had a band when I was in Nashville, and I called the symphony my day job, so that it could support me, so I could pay my band. And
Right.
the Delta Elements, and there's clips out on YouTube I've put up there. And that's really fun because I get to play electric slide guitar. I don't do the Leo Kottke thing where you accompany yourself. Elly knows what I'm talking about, but the backbeat. So therefore, when I'm playing solo, you don't see me on slide because the bottom drops out and it sounds too empty for me, for my taste. So I do miss that, and I miss playing with others, definitely. You didn't ask this, but more recently I did this thing that's multimedia work called Integrate or Disintegrate. And it was an attempt to start to put together the types of music that I do and just me as a person, as opposed to compartmentalizing. Many of us have had to do, and we're always encouraged to do in society. This belongs there, not over there. And you learn to do that. But so I did a piece called Integrate or Disintegrate recently at the Lace Mill in Kingston, and it went over really well. But the bottom line is just that I'm exploring how I could maybe put that together musically. It might be too much. It might be disintegrating, but I'm going to give it some time, probably a few years, and maybe turn it into a longer thing.
Right.
Music will
Good.
be called Thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes working on a project it does become a thing.
What's that?
Go ahead, Elly.
I want to say just something that has occurred to me many times if I go to somebody else's concert or an open mic. It takes a lot of courage to get up there by yourself. And
Yes,
although some people may be beginners and they haven't quite found their voice or smoothed out their guitar playing, it takes a lot of courage. And I always give people a lot of credit for getting up there, because when you're a solo artist, you're naked. There's nobody covering for you. The drummer's not going to take a solo while you figure your stuff out. So I think that solo artists at all levels are to be supported and acknowledged for the courage that it takes to be up there by yourself. I know it's taken me a long time to be comfortable up there by myself. And I want to just say that for many, many years, it was daunting. But now I am comfortable, and it's really a joy. But it does take a certain kind of crazy courage to get up there by yourself.
Right. And I was telling Elly behind the scenes, this is like I'm now a solo podcast host. I did have a co-host and it didn't work out. We were both in our different directions. And it took a lot of courage. A lot of people encouraged me to go solo, and I was not too comfortable going solo because I would have that back partner with me. And now it's taking me 25 episodes to be used to doing this by myself. I can have the show at 10 o'clock in the morning, or I can have 6 p.m. I can bounce around to fit your guys' schedule and not keeping it the way that it could have. So it does take a lot of courage to get up there and do things by yourself. So I do understand that part. Absolutely.
Then one of the benefits of being solo, as we all know, is you can switch gears. So I'll write out a set list and I'll never end up doing it exactly. I'll go by the moment of either how people reacted to the last song and then go in a different direction, or just how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So that there are true benefits to being solo, which is you can be more spontaneous. You have nobody waiting for you to go in that, hey, what happened? I guess the ideal is to find a band that's willing to, or a group that's willing to go in your, whatever direction you pick, whether it's improv or planned.
Right. Totally agree.
Anyway.
Alrighty. So what is your guys' favorite song to perform and why on stage?
Favorite what?
What is your favorite song that you guys like to perform on stage and why?
Oh, gee, that changes. As Marianne said, you have to be able to read your audience,
right,
and see what's going to go over. I mean, I've performed songs from a Broadway show when I was in a jam once, and that song just sort of expressed how I was feeling. But that's not my usual repertoire at all. So. Certain songs, like I like to start a set with a song that's not too challenging. So I can sort of, one that I know well, not like something that I just wrote or just learned, something that I can kind of relax into. And that can be anywhere from Broadway to blues. And I have to say that when I was on the road doing a house concert tour, I landed at in Ohio at a rod and gun club. And I looked at the audience, and I'm a peacenik, and here are all these like gun people. I said, these people are going to hate me. They're not going to like me at all. But I opened up with a Patsy Cline song. And they were all like, I could see the people in the room like, oh.
Yeah, it's Patsy.
At the end of the show, some people came up to talk to me, and I confided in them. I said, I thought you guys were going to hate me. I didn't. They said, well, we thought we were going to hate you. We didn't want to hear another breakup song where you're feeling sorry for yourself. But so there was this common ground. If you can find it, you'll find the right song.
Well, pretty awesome.
That's great.
All right, Marianne, what about you?
It's just visualizing you in the gun club.
Yes,
I lived near a gun club not long ago in my series of fun places to live. and thought about joining. It was suggested to me that I join, as a way of getting in, as a way of befriending, so as not to be shot at. Okay, anyway, moving on. It's the end of that. That changes. You said what song do I begin
Yeah,
with?
what's your favorite song to perform and why?
Often I've done. Okay, so mostly I do my own music, but I also do covers in unusual styles. So I have a version of "Listen to the Music." I don't know if it's kosher to play, so I have my guitar.
You can go, you can if you want to.
So
Why
it's
not?
just
You mean the
instead of
Doobie
the usual.
Brothers?
So I wasn't going to begin unless.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Okay,
so
as opposed to the regular Doobie Brothers, it's. Anyway, I go, don't you feel it growing day by day? People getting ready for the news. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. So I see it as being in my own world. Tuck and Patty meets, you know who Tuck and Patty is, Ellie?
yeah.
Shels, you might not. And if you don't, they're really worth checking out. Tuck and Patty. Anyway, so that's my version of Doobie Brothers. And it either brings people in or pushes them further out. But I find out who my friends are. Then I have a 7/8 version of Get Together. If I'm being nice, I don't ask people to sing along.
I was going to say that must be hard to sing along to.
And it actually isn't, because if you sing over it,
it works.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, I don't know how much time it could take up, but.
Oh, you're fine. You're good. Okay.
So instead of the, by the way, this isn't my Stella guitar because that one broke actually into pieces. But that's the featured slide guitar on a song called Bless These Blues, which was my one MTV style video done many years ago. But this is a Regal found at our transfer station, and then I had it found for free. I had it redone by a wonderful guitar repair person. But so, instead of come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try and love one another, right? So I get into this whole 7/8 thing, which you just spend days turning all your songs into 7/8 songs and never come back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you go. So if people aren't familiar with the song, love is but a song we sing. Fear's the way we die. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can make the mountains rain or make the angels cry. 6, 7. Though the bird is on the wing, you may not know why. This is really good for drumming. Come on, people. So let's try it. 5, 6, 7.
We can't do it at this
people now. Smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Love one another right now. And then the second time I do it after the next verse, I go, because Jesse Colin Young, who actually didn't write the song, I can't remember who did, but this is the version they forgot. Come on, people now, smile on your sister, everybody get together, make love your mission right now. Right now.
That's beautiful, Marianne. And it's interesting because I usually close with that song.
Really?
And have everybody sing along. And also it is written for my children to see that if you get together after I die, sing that song.
Oh, wow.
Have a memorial service, because it's and Dino Valenti wrote it, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
reminding me, because I did look it up recently. Wow,
Yes.
yeah, it's a very moving song.
It's an important song, and it's like when I sing it, I think, come on, people, now. Smile at your brother. Everybody get together and love one another right now already. It's like, come on, people. We can't go on like this.
Right. I hear you.
This right now.
Absolutely. So beautiful.
I love it. When
you said
Marianne, when we get together, we're going to play that in 7/8.
When we get together.
Yeah, there you go.
Tomorrow.
We gotta get
We're
together.
getting together for the first time tomorrow, Ellie and I.
Yeah, we're going to play some music.
We're rehearsing being friends. We're going to rehearse being friends.
You can't rehearse being
and see if we can be in a band called Friends. I'm just making this up, all right?
You can't rehearse. Either you're a friend or you're not. This is not a rehearsal. This is not a rehearsal.
I think there's some good pieces there for friendship. So,
I didn't know you were getting involved in this whole.
No, I didn't, but I love it anyway.
Thing.
You two remind me of my best friend and I when we get together. We're way worse.
Well, I've noticed it's not so easy. They say it's not so easy making friends at my age, and it for quite a long time it was because many women had kids, so there was, if you didn't matter if you were in a relationship or a series or none or a relationship with yourself, you just were not in their picture and they weren't in yours. And then I showed up at my first high school reunion, which was the 40th. And people had, their kids had exited their lives, or at least they could talk about themselves now a little bit. And I got to find out there were maybe 2 possibilities for friends then. But anyway, my point is now it's interesting because some people are very closed to that, and it doesn't even have to do with. But I don't think it has to do, well, it has something to do with, of course, what's going on in their lives. But people with relationships are either open to other friends or they're not. And it's been disconcerting to me because I may have trouble with my follow through on friendships, but I used to make friends easily. So it's been really nice to meet you, Ellie, and your warmth is obvious.
So how did you guys become friends?
Well, we'll let you know next week.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. Yeah. Let's not go that far yet.
Well, I was attracted to Marianne by her music. Because I have a tendency in my life to be attracted to talent, and she's got oodles and oodles of it. So I went to hear her play at a local coffee house we have in Kingston. And really we exchanged records, albums. And the more I listened to Marianne's music, the more I said, oh my goodness, this is incredible. This is, So that was the initial impetus to become friends. And
I was so happy that you showed up with Dave, and it was great. I remember, I think she was up there at the front. This is how I am. This is commercial Marianne. You were pulling out money, and I said, "Oh no, let's trade." And then after we did that, I'm going, "You wonder why you never make money."
Yeah, but right. We're not supposed to do that, but we did.
Yeah,
but the trade was great. And I've enjoyed her record as well. And no, I've been drawn to you, Ellie, and your warmth is obvious. And so beyond
we'll let
that,
you know how it.
We'll let you know how it goes.
Okay, awesome.
You can do a follow up.
This may have been the honeymoon and the marriage, and it may have been dissolved by tomorrow.
Right.
Which happens,
It does.
Right. Cool.
Chemistry is a mysterious thing.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it
What was
is.
the noun in that picture?
Chemistry is
Oh,
a
chemistry, yes.
mysterious thing. You never know. It's like when dogs, they meet each other. Either they want to kill each other or they play.
Or they
Right, right.
You never know.
That's right.
All right.
You never know. There's a
All right.
song.
There you go. All right. Next question. What is your favorite venue to perform and why?
Place
Okay.
to perform? Did you say place?
Yeah. What's your favorite venue to perform? We'll start with you, Marianne.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Well, I like different places for different reasons. So I'd say that the best place is where there's a listening and receptive audience. And it's funny, I still remain, even after so many years of therapy, thank you very much, codependent enough that if it's a room that's so silent, even though it's known to be a listening room and everyone's been taught to shut up, like the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, it's like, shh, or you're literally out the room. If people are too silent, it feels like enemy territory. So my favorite venues are the ones where people feel good to be there, and it's obvious that they are really listening and enjoying the music. I do love Tilda's for certain reasons. Tilda's is in Kingston, and Elly might be able to explain better what they're about, but they're actually a nonprofit restaurant, I found out recently. But there are things are based on what's called currents, and if you have currents that you've traded in for services, blah blah blah. I don't know how to keep this short. You use them to pay for your food, and they have one day when they actually serve to the public all of their food for free, and it's run by this fellow named Chris Hewitt. More than that, I can't explain it. I tend to clam up when I have to deal with details, but Tilda's is a great place. And I don't know. I've played a strange array of places. I actually like really small places these days, but I will name drop once anyway. I opened for Bo Diddley at the Bottom Line before they closed. That's because I was in the John Hall band, and I played oboe and slide guitar with him. And this ends with the funny story of the fact that I had the audacity to go into the Bo Diddley room when he wasn't performing. I think it was afterwards. I think I was the only assault in the room, which should have probably told me not to say what I was about to say, which was, "You're Bo Diddley. You were great. I'm Obo Diddley." And that really happened. And that's because John Hall had named me that, but that worked in our environment, not in theirs. There's the end of the story.
Alrighty. All right, Miss Elly. What about you? What is your favorite venue to perform and why?
You can play at a place and it's great, and then you go back again and it's terrible. So the kind of place that I like to play are these arts centers that are not necessarily in a big city, but they're like medium-sized houses, and they have a membership from the surrounding areas that's enthusiastic about the programming that this art, and they're all nonprofits, but they have a regular membership that comes to concerts because of the quality of the programming. Around here we have the Stissing Center and the Spencertown Academy and the Athens Cultural Center, and people get to know a certain place because of the quality of their programming. So when people show up, even if they've never heard you before, they have learned a little about you, and they're excited about the music, and they're there because they want to be. And it's just, and usually the sound is really great. And it's that kind of medium-sized arts center in all these places that otherwise you might not go to, that I like to play in.
Like, for
Nice.
instance, the Lace Mill, which I forgot to mention. Do you
That's
feel
true.
Ah.
I have played at the Lace Mill, although they don't have a standing audience yet. They might, but some concerts are well attended and some are not.
that's true?
The programming at these arts centers, they do a year in advance, and you
Oh, wow.
buy your season ticket, and it's very people are very involved and enthusiastic about the place itself, because it's like a little haven for arts and culture in what might otherwise be an agricultural area or the boonies. So that's the kind of place I like to play.
I never thought of
Alrighty.
it that way, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Outpost in the Burbs? Because that's probably fits that.
No, but then I'll put it on my list.
Yeah, I was going to start writing when you started talking. So
Yeah, right.
tomorrow
Well,
we can make some
we'll
lists.
exchange lists.
There you go. All right. Backstage, Ellie and I had a conversation about this one question. So, how does the internet impact your music career?
Oh, I don't remember that. Did we talk?
We were talking about
that?
we were talking about COVID and how
Oh,
Zoom.
yes. Yeah.
Yes. So
True.
how has this impact you before COVID, before COVID and after COVID? So we'll start with Ellie first. How has the internet impact your music career?
Well, it's made it possible. Absolutely. I mean, when I think about, mailing out press kits and following up by phone, and it was just really kind of clunky, and you could only do so much because printing and postage cost money. And now with the internet, you can reach out across different areas and so many at a time. And when COVID started, I started doing hosting Zoom concerts. Took a while to get the technology together, but after a while, it's been really good. And also live streaming. I did a live stream from the town crier in Beacon, New York. No audience in the house because it was COVID, but we had this
Right.
beautiful stage and beautiful sound and a video camera, and it was like almost normal. But of course, there's nobody in the house, so that was kind of weird. But it's made a lot possible to be able to live stream and also reach out to people for gigs, and a lot of people live stream on YouTube and Facebook. There's some incredible stuff. It's like you just spend hours and hours exploring all the things that people you would never have heard before. Yeah,
Right.
discovered some great artists that way. Yeah.
All right. Well, what about you, Marianne?
I don't like answering these questions, I have to admit. How has the internet benefited?
Yeah.
Well,
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
Or has it not?
Well, the book that I'm going to be writing is the trial and error method of music business, how not to do things. And it'll be a bestseller. But first, I've got to write the procrastination book. Let's see that. Anyway, which that's
Wait,
a support.
I was thinking
I'll be
of
starting
writing
soon.
that.
What's that?
I was thinking of writing that.
We can write that tomorrow.
No, we'll just talk about writing.
Right.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Or talk about talking about it. Anyway. So during the pandemic, I started doing also shows, not on the regular basis that some people have. I have a colleague and a great songwriter, if you're not familiar with her, unusual for having been in Nashville, Marshall Chapman. She's on her like 300th, and she always says what week it is, 300th show, because she just started when the pandemic started at a certain point, and she's been doing them ever since. She's on Saturday afternoons at 4. You can look her up. Marshall Chapman. Really, are either of you familiar with her name?
No.
Also had
I'll look her up though.
Also had hits in music business, which is odd if you actually see her, because she's this really tall woman who didn't fit the usual standards of Nashville, and yet she grew up as Southern as it could possibly be. But she is a fierce powerhouse of a singer and writer, brilliant woman, and she's since written some books as well. Goodbye, Rock and Roller. Anyway, I know I'm supposed to be talking about myself, but I don't really care. I just talk about the things that matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
So she's someone to check out, and she's on. I mean, I laugh because she goes, "We're on our 299th show now." I can't do her accent, but she's been doing it ever since. So I've done it sporadically. I was doing it fairly regularly, Facebook Live. And you can see some of those on my original Facebook page, which is Marianne Osiel, which will be coming down because, remember, Facebook's going to be taking away all of the videos and we have to download them. Maybe we can confer on how to do that, by the way. And so I had some fun with that, and I was able to also kind of go from one thing to another, which is how my mind works, in case that's not obvious to you guys. So I could just shift mid set and decide, I think I'm going to play something from my oboe record, or maybe show a piece of art that I did, or my cat, or this and that. And I would say I had a small emphasis on small, but enthusiastic following.
Okay. All right.
And other than that, it's great, like Elly said, to send out things if you have a mailing list. To your followers. I rely a bit much on Facebook for that, and I'll forget the shoulds for right now. We have enough shoulds in our life. Did I answer your question?
Yep, you did. All right. What is your favorite type of music to write and why?
I don't write types of music. I write music. And I write because I have to, usually. Either I'm hurting or I'm angry. Those are my two modes of writing.
We're friends.
Right, we're all friends here.
Yeah. The last 5 years, I've probably written more political songs than I ever have in my life. I have a song called Alabama Blues, which I wrote when the first very, very restrictive abortion laws went into effect. And I thought, well, this song will be good for a while, but then I'll be able to retire it. But no, it gets, unfortunately, more pertinent every day. So, and I also wrote a song about January 6th, because I was so deeply disturbed by it. And I was so deeply disturbed by it that I spent money I didn't really have to make a video of it. So if you go on YouTube, there's a video called January 6th of a song that I wrote, and my engineer, Julie Last, helped me make a video of. So, yeah, I'm either really pissed off or I'm hurting from some emotional thing. And I have to write, or I'll just melt down. So
right. I hear you.
Yeah. But musically, those songs are all over the place. One is fairly straight ahead blues, one is definitely rock, one is singer-songwriter. So I write all over the spectrum, but those are the reasons that I write.
All right, cool. All right, Marianne, what about you? What is your favorite type of music to write and why?
Yeah, I also don't feel like I write. Well, I suppose I write at a genre. I mean, when I came to Nashville, I was actually even told certain chords I couldn't put in a song.
They told Joni Mitchell that also. Do you know that? They told Joni Mitchell the exact same thing. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, and it was a 7 flat chord. You know, you couldn't go. I mean, that's how long ago that was. And funny is I'm going to keep the person nameless because I don't feel like gossiping. But that person is a very famous producer and a great musician. And we were co-writing, so I'll give him that. He, but he, you know, imprinted in me that I typically 1-4-5 for those out there that don't know, it would be like D, G4, 5, D, and then you could have a 6 minor, but you wouldn't have or 7 flat, as they say. And then now, of course, country is what is country.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
You know,
It's everywhere now.
anything. It's who they've decided the artist is, but I don't want to be crass. So
I hear you.
Keep it positive. But I guess I've written in certain genres. When I wrote my record called Strange Girl, which goes back a ways, but I still do believe in. It was started in 94. It was finished in 95. And I worked on it every day during that period of time with my engineer. I would say, well, coming to New York, people said that they heard country in it. And so funny, because I guess I just got so used to being in Nashville. I was there for 16 years. But in Nashville, it was considered very left of center at the time when I finished it. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the question, you said, what genre do we?
Yeah, what type of music do you write
Yeah.
that you write and why?
So I'll go on to say that mostly my life's been about being blocked. And then there's this occasional like anger or being in love/lust, usually more emphasis on the latter, can get me to write heartbreak. And once I'm in that flow, I won't say nothing can stop me, but I've been known to actually change plans with people if I'm really into writing at a certain point, because it feels so precious and it feels so rare. So the joke is that, you know, somebody came to my door for a date. This was many years ago. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'm writing. And I figured that he would either know, we would either be involved or we wouldn't, probably based upon that. But at that point, I didn't care. It was like the song. But,
Right.
what I was going to get to is that in an attempt to unblock myself in songwriting, I decided not to take a songwriting class because that's like concentrating even harder on the thing that's the difficulty. And what is it Einstein says? You can't solve the problem. I'm going to botch this, but from the problem. So I thought, okay, let's come from prose writing. And I actually got into writing short stories thanks to this group and this approach to prose writing called authentic writing. And Elly, you might know about it because it was in Woodstock for many years.
Right.
Fred Poole and Marta Szabo. Did you take any of those workshops?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So I got very involved
tempted,
for a while.
but
What's that?
I was tempted, believe me.
Yeah, the stories tomorrow, because they can't be told on air right now. But it actually was so inspiring. It's based on all, that everything is optional in the group, except leaving when someone's, you know, talking or reading. But to write in the group during that space and time is optional. To read your work when that comes up is optional, and to feedback is optional. But then, and what makes it so supportive a room is people are really fastened to listening, and you only get to hear it once. You don't have copies of the stuff going around like I know many writing groups have. Here's my where, and then they read it, but you're having a few different experiences at once. I love the concept of having to listen to it in the moment, because you know that's the only time you'll ever hear it. I know I've shifted here, but anyway, it could work for songwriting. but it was a tremendous group, so much so that when I left that group, I started my own for a while in Rockland, and it went successfully for 2 years. There was no pay involved. There was no, I usually catered it in my own Jewish mother way. But people came for the writing and the reading, and they left with smiles on their faces. It's something I'd like to actually get involved in again, whether it's my own group or someone else. The feedback had to be the non-option was it had to be in an affirmative style, specific feedback, not just like, oh, I really liked your piece. And what was not okay to say was, I could see it being in the New York, blah, blah. But to stay in the present time and to feedback on how that piece made you feel, or your curiosity about a character, or something like that. And what was amazing about this process, which I know is now kind of all over the place in other aspects, like it's not just authentic writing, but it works so well, is that I think that it just opens up, it leaves the seed of thought, or the seedling of inspiration open to growing. It almost makes me cry about that, as opposed to how we shut down so quickly and we edit ourselves in our lives. And by leaving that open, I think the story grows to how it needs to be. And so if we hear in a feedback, and we're not allowed to feedback to the other person, to the person who's feedbacking to us, we can't say anything. Oh no, you didn't understand that. You just have to listen to what they say. And to me, that's also fascinating, because you learn about what did get written that you wrote and what didn't come out. And what was really interesting, I'll just end with this, since this whole thing kind of is an interruption to your original question, Shels. But what makes it so fascinating is that you don't realize that you're saying something. You may have not thought you wrote something down, but in the way that you wrote it, a description, I guess it would help to have an example, but I don't. You said something, and sometimes you'll get feedback where somebody has intuited something that you said that you didn't even actually write down, but it was in the story. If that makes any sense. That those are some of like these magical moments where the feedback would really teach you something about what you were saying and what you weren't. Just by the way you phrased something can lead someone to understand. And it was always prose too, by the way. It wasn't poetry, mainly because it's a little too esoteric to hear it just once and then feedback, whereas a story, you're following a storyline. So we each have that chance to catch what the story's about. Anyway, okay. You can see where my intensity is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can get back in one of those.
Go ahead, Ellie. You had a input on that?
Well, yes, but it applies to songwriting in that you can write a song and someone in the audience will interpret, everybody experiences that song for themselves, and they think it's about this or about that, and that was not what your intention was when they wrote it, but they read their own experience into that song and said, oh, that song moved me because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't intend that at all, but that's part of what makes a song great is that it has some element that's universal that people can relate to from their own experience.
Right.
So yeah, that's very, very cool. I mean, definitely applies to writing prose and writing songs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or it could be written in a way that sounds like it could be interpreted more than one way. But like you said, it could be more, again, examples would be helpful, but things that are more universal, I'm gonna let that thought go.
Okay, all right.
I don't have examples to back up.
All right. So, who are your best musical influences?
Oh, geez, I hate that question.
All
No,
right, then
nothing personal, nothing personal, because
Yeah.
there's you're always being influenced. When I was 6 years old, I was influenced by Lead Belly and Blind Willie Johnson. Yesterday, I was influenced by Sarah Jarosz. It's like
Yeah.
if you're an artist who is growing and developing, you're open all the time to influences. I copied certain people when I wanted to learn a guitar lick, but that's a different kind of influence. That's kind of, so I'm influenced by everything. And thank goodness for my parents who had an amazing record collection when
Wow.
I was growing up. So yes, I was influenced by those people, but do I sound like them? No,
What did they
not at
have in
all.
their collection?
Well, they had all the Smithsonian Folkways records, and my father was a jazz buff, so he had Ella Fitzgerald and the big bands and all that stuff. So I just had this rich array of music that was available in the house. So it was wonderful. And I tried to do the same thing with my kids who now, have their own musical paths. But yeah, I mean, I took guitar lessons from David Bromberg. That influenced me a lot, you know. So, but you're always being if you're awake, you're always being influenced by different people. And there's some great people around today that inspire me. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
All
I
right.
love
There you
that
go.
line. If you're awake, you're always being influenced, and
Yeah.
I think we're influenced even beyond our knowledge. You know,
right. Not unconsciously.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
For me, I also don't like. I've not liked to answer that in the past, although I don't mind now. It's like I'm too old; it doesn't matter. But my mom had an interesting collection. Mostly, I would say the one thing that we, bless her heart in heaven, got along on was that I always say my favorite songwriter was J.S. Bach, and remains that way. I mean, truly, Johann Sebastian Bach, amazing composer. And if you're going to listen to something, I will throw out, uh, well, all of the cantatas, but the Bach Concerto for Oboe and Violin in C minor. If you guys want to look that up. And in fact, my processional in my marriage, never mind how the marriage went, but the processional went really great. And that was the second movement of that piece. My to-be then now ex-husband got to pick the outro. What do you call it? The recessional.
Mhm.
And that was All You Need Is Love. But anyway, so I was I was only influenced in classical music. My mother had such a strong hold on me growing up that the one time the Beatles came close to being in Santa Barbara, she made sure we were out of town, and that is really a true story. So I never actually heard any of like the early pop music when it was recorded, but I totally got involved in second year of college when all hell broke loose in my life otherwise. But I loved my music theory class at Cleveland Institute of Music, absolutely ate up. And I highly recommend people take music theory and or take piano if you're starting music. Doesn't matter when, how long you've been playing, because it's such a great map of theory. It shows you the pitches, but so I would leave my music theory class and then go straight home and put my vinyl record on my record player and teach myself. I taught myself Joan Baez's Silver Dagger and figured out she was capoed. This was the most exciting part. That nobody, I love it when nobody in the world cares And they're not even going to care once you tell them it. But I'm saying it now, many years later. I figured out she was capoed to the 5th fret. She was playing in D, but she was capoed because it sounded like this. I mean, I can't do it without the capo, but and I taught myself Silver Dagger, and sounded like her during that period of time. So anyway, so Joan Baez. Anyway, I really believe in music theory. I am thumping that. There's so many ways to actually learn it, I guess, online now. But class was just great. We had to learn. Our teacher would play Bach chorales and give us one note. It's kind of like Sudoku for music. Now I think about it. Is it Sudoku? Sudoku. Where you had one note and you really had to figure out the rest, and you would follow the line. And you can teach yourself to really listen to music that way. If you don't know what I'm talking about, write me afterwards, and I'll explain.
All right.
Anyway, other influences, Bonnie Raitt. My Italian teacher in school gave me a Bonnie Raitt record, and I didn't give it back, and I left school after that. And that's all I'm going to talk about.
Okay. All right. All righty. If you could change one thing about the music industry, what would that be?
Everything. I was at a folk music conference once. Maybe, I think it was in 2020, because COVID was just about to explode.
Right.
And there was a panel discussion about the music business that I went to. And one of the members of the panel was Cyril Neville, who is the patriarch of the Neville brothers and the entire New Orleans music scene. He's like the Frank Sinatra of, he's like, and he was on the panel. And when it came around for him to speak, he said this. He said, there's only one thing wrong with the music business, and that is greed.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't used to be like that. And they have stolen our music. You cannot buy music anymore. You can rent it. When you buy something from Apple Music or Spotify, you don't have it. You're renting it. You can't download it and share it with a friend. You're renting the music. So not only is the consumer being screwed, but the artist is being screwed because they're getting 0.0001. I mean, I am constantly having to tell my friends, please don't go to Spotify for my music. Please go to Bandcamp, which is an independent site where you're buying directly from the musician. Please don't go to Spotify. I get 30-page royalty reports where the bottom line is $2. And Cyril Neville just said this is what's wrong with the music business, is just pure greed. And that's it. What else would?
And it probably was always that, but it blossomed.
With the advent of the internet, it made it easier to steal music from musicians.
I mean, greed can be spiritually connected to fear. Fear would create greed, right? So
absolutely,
a person's fear for their own job, say, I'm talking from the music executive for a moment standpoint, where they're going, we want you to sound, we want something like that's already making it out there. I'm thinking decades ago, but your own. But and it's really they wanted just another face with that sound, because that sound was making them money,
right?
And it was fear based, and it was even some executives pulled me aside to say that, look, I can't risk my job to try something new.
Wow.
you're too creative, you're too inventive, you're too unusual, you're too, yeah.
Yeah, the few times that people were interested in me in Nashville, well, I may have botched. I'm not putting that as that's a possibility, but mostly they were really trying to smush me into a certain role, country rock at best. Again, I'm going to keep names out of it, but yeah.
You're
So
good. You're good.
I would say it bothers me to this day, even though I do it, because now for financial reasons, I have to, but I think things really went kaflooey. Nice euphemism when suddenly you could copy a CD. You know, you couldn't ever copy music
Right.
quite the same way when there was vinyl. You could make vinyl into a cassette, and that was going to be a second generation, and then you could make a cassette from a cassette again, and you had the element of that thing could get destroyed. But then as soon as you have CDs, it took me a long time to get into CDs, and then I was really hip to it. But then I realized, oh, no, you can burn a copy, and it's exactly the same. There's no loss of sound. To this day, I actually don't know how it's possible that we can hear an entire record online. I'm not going to be angry. There's just no point. But you can hear even on some labels, they let you hear the entire record, or you can buy it, or both, or whatever. But that element alone screws the performer. It screws all parts of the business. So I still sit here confused at how that's even possible to do. And one can say, well, you don't have the real. It's true. You know, we just finished this record, NUMBQ, and it's nothing like that CD you have in your hand and the packaging over it that tells you that you finished your record. That was the only thing that told me I finished my record the first time. You understand what that's like, Elly? Where there was packaging between you and the art that you created. It's over. It's done. There's packaging. That's supposed to be a joke. But and there is nothing like that in my opinion, but that's because I guess I'm of a certain generation. I took my music off of the streaming things, but the ones that are up there are either stolen, or I don't even know that they're there. Someone actually has lifted my tune, Bless These Blues, and they're from the Ukraine, supposedly, and they did this before this war, and they wrote to me and said, I found your vocal online. We said, I found your music online, and it was me singing an a cappella version of this song called Bless These Blues, that I had put up there, and he had added this techno drums and synthesizer to it. And what's really sad is he said, I'm not going to sell it. And I said, good. And I wanted to say, could we do that in writing? But I didn't. Then I found it online, and he does sell it, and he calls it a co-write. I will say his name. It's Taras Basiv, Taras. So you all can listen to a different version, but please preferably listen to my own first of Bless These Blues. Basiv, Baseev. And I've tried to reason with him, and he's written me and said, no, it's like 0.000. He's reasoning with me that he's making that much. And he said, if you want, I'll take it down.
And
I just didn't write him back after that.
Wow.
It's really easy to steal music. Really easy. Happens all the time.
I literally don't know how anyone is making a living at the music business right now. I'm talking about as a performer. And it shocked me. I sat with my friend Stephen a few years ago when I saw one of my favorite singer-songwriters perform, Jonathan Brooke. She originally had a band called The Story. It was a duo out of Boston. She's a fabulous singer-songwriter, and she gives workshops. She said out loud to surprised public, that she made, point what you just said you make on the song.
Right.
Played. and that she was doing solo concerts because that was how she could afford to keep doing what she's doing. So, and my guess is that's why. I mean, I'd like to think people are very loving and want to give their music and music prowess away, but I think that may be why a lot of performers do workshops now. They'll perform in an area, and they'll also. I'm talking about singer-songwriters.
Right.
And they'll try and work out a workshop for that day at the same time, which is a great idea, and it is a way of bringing in more of an audience, and it is a great way of reaching out. But if you just want to perform your music and you feel like that's what your strength is, good luck doing that for a living.
On episode 21, I did have some artists who talk about music AI. So how do you guys feel about music AI?
Well, what exactly is music AI?
That's kind of a contradiction. It's an oxymoron, music AI.
Right.
It's like Bible camp. Well, which is it?
So it's basically AI playing or making up their own music without the soul and the heart, where it can actually take your guys' music and your sound, just like the gentleman did, and make it an AI replicate of it. Yeah,
our music is already stolen, so here's just another way of stealing music.
Right.
Just another.
It's so out there, it's hard to. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I mean, AI is in some ways intelligent, and in some ways it's not. I think people who claim to have written something that was actually written by AI, that's dishonest. I mean,
and aren't there even programs, Ellie, that you can get now where AI can assist you? I'm sorry,
well,
I guess I'm just
but
old school.
But if you say I wrote this and you don't say with the assistance of AI, then you're just being dishonest.
I mean, as it is, we're so influenced by everything, and I lost some friends early on in Nashville when I was a bit too open with my vocalizations of how I thought that things sounded everyone sounded like everyone else in their writing. Somebody never forgave me for that. And I shouldn't have said it, I guess, but I just kind of thought there should be more of an expansiveness of listening, but we were all being influenced by each other, and that was the world they were in. And they were doing better than I in business. But anyway, yeah, it's beyond me. I guess I'd have to see. I think I would be both. If AI, if there was a program that kind of mimicked what I did, it would be. I'm curious to see what it would come up with. But for one thing, I guess I'm old school in this is I would not take credit for it because it didn't come from me. So,
all right.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's circle back to you guys being a solo female artist. How do you guys feel about being women in the music industry?
That's another question that really bugs me because
there's some easier questions too. Like, how do you like
sorry, Shels. I love that you're doing this, and the reason that I don't like that question is that, for instance, somebody would say, Joni Mitchell is the best female artist of the 20th century. No, she's the best artist. I mean, she's just like, don't narrow it down.
Right.
By gender. So that's, like one thing that does in the blues world bug me is that very often you'll see male blues artists who get on stage and they look like they haven't taken a shower in 10 years, and they go for this humongously grungy, disgusting look. And if a woman got on stage like that, they'd probably go, oh no, that won't do. There's a different aesthetic for men very often, especially in the blues world. I see a lot of this, where somebody like can cash in on their grungy, overweight,
Right.
holy t-shirt full of holes and sweat marks all over them, and it's like, oh yeah, there. Whereas
Susan,
that
today
one,
she has to wear a dress.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know the rest of that story. So that's the only time I really think how unfair it is for women very often.
All right.
So,
What about you? What about you, Marianne?
phrase the question again.
How how do you feel about being a woman
Because for
in the
me,
music
because it's
industry?
always a game of telephone. I'm already in another world.
Yes.
You're right. You're good. How do you feel about being a woman in the music industry?
Oh, that. I think there's so many things I ended up internalizing. Gosh, it's funny because I also in this world, well, pre most recent political events, we'll put it that way, I felt like things were really opening up, and I was kind of glad for everyone. That you can't, like in country music, you can. There's been some up and coming songwriters and guitarists that are women that you can't quite tell which gender they are.
Yeah.
And they like it that way, and I like it that way because I like them because they're presenting great music from the heart. I felt like there's so much hope for the world when I was experiencing that. I don't know what's going on in terms of. You didn't ask this question in terms of.
It's okay. You're good.
I don't want to really know actually at this point. I just
Right.
have thought that there have been some great new open. Also, quite frankly, when I was in Nashville, which was 83 to 99 before I came to New York, you could not be the only person that got away with, and I won't even say that she was slightly overweight, but okay, I'm not even going to mention her because of how I just set that up. Back during the time period that I just mentioned, you could not be overweight and be a female singer and or singer-songwriter in the country music world. But I think men could. But anyway, now it seems like it's changed. There's people, I just don't like naming names because it becomes so gossipy. But there
Right,
are
right.
artists
I know
now
who you mean.
that are more famous, both in blues, which I think has
Right.
been a little more giving, pardon the pun, but in that way. My
Well, you
joke
could be overweight, but not slovenly.
Right.
Because if you wear a gown
Right.
and jewelry and, then you
That's
can
right.
be big. But you can't be slovenly like men.
Yeah,
often
so that
are.
does still prevail.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I don't know. It's
Complicated.
yeah, it's kind of too. There's so many ways I can go with it. Let's just say, yeah, okay. When I was in Nashville, and even here, people have said, "Oh, she's the best female slide guitarist." I was known as the best female slide guitarist in Nashville, and now when I think about it, I don't know that I knew any others. So that's a joke on myself. But that is. But then I had a few people pull me aside and go, "Oh, you're the best slide guitarist." But
way back when, my friend Eric Franzen said this about me, which I will always love him for. He said, "She's really good, and not just for a girl."
right.
Oh, geez.
I said, "Thank you, Eric."
I guess it's the way that they being males try to put women in their place by saying that, right? Because
Right.
who would a female be saying that?
No,
She's
No.
the best
not.
female
Of
slide
course not.
guitarist. She's the
Of
best.
course not.
No, so it comes from the patriarchy.
Yeah, there's a lot of that floating around. I played slide guitar at a friend's CD release party, and so I had my national guitar on a stand on stage, and this guy from the audience came up to the guy who was having the CD release party and said, "When are you going to play that thing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to play it. She's going to play it." And he came up 5 minutes later and said, "So when are you going to play that thing?" To him again.
Well,
He just
Wow.
couldn't like process that I was going to be the one playing that.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
let's pull out the slides tomorrow if you're.
Oh,
if you're
yes,
game.
definitely. Definitely.
I don't mean
For
like a
sure.
duel. So speaking of duels, no. Do you guys, if you haven't caught it, Ellie, you may have. This isn't a duel at all. That was a joke. It's a scene of where I don't even. Maybe you'll know where this took place, but BB King's on stage, and next to him is now my all-time favorite slide player,
Who? Bonnie
Derek
Raitt.
Trucks.
Oh, Derek Trucks. Sure.
Yeah, he's literally from outer space. It's truly, anyway, so brilliant, so from the heart. Just anyway, and then next to him is John Mayer, and John's a great guitarist, but Derek's just playing. He's just being him, and John is looking over, like just he goes from drooling to just going like, and he can't even control his reaction. John Mayer, the famous John Mayer. And after a while, he's just going, like, I can't even play. And then BB King starts turning it into this thing, which I forgive him for. He said, he's like, kind of, if you were a woman, he goes, I'm pulling up or then he pretended to be a woman because that was his reaction to Derek Trucks. This couldn't just be, you're great, man. But BB King had it. He was extremely funny with his reaction to Derek. He was blown away.
Those issues will never like totally disappear, but sometimes things get better, sometimes they get worse.
Sure, right. If you can catch that, it's somewhere on YouTube. So it would be a performance. There's a bigger band behind them. I don't know what it is because I was just so.
It might say BB King and Derek Trucks.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
And maybe you could put John Mayer in there. It's just the scene. It's very funny to watch. Watch these reactions as this amazing artistry is going by with Derek's playing. I love that I'm still inspired by a few people. I admit to being a critical mofo, but Derek truly he brings in an Indian and East Indian scale, to his playing. So beyond the blues, and it's not regular diatonic, but
all the notes in between.
Scales. What's that?
All the notes in between.
Yeah. But I don't even know. I mean, some of the ragas, have certain. Some do sound like some of the modes, but might check that out.
All right, cool. All right, so the next question is going to come with a story that just reason why we're having this conversation. I had a friend of mine. She was in a band. I tell Ellie this earlier in backstage, is that the reason why we were having this conversation, this podcast, to begin with, and she was going to be here, but her job called her instead, so she's over there doing her job thing. She was in a band. And she, at the time, was overweight when she joined the band. And then she started changing her appearances to where she lost the weight, lost her parents. She basically did some personal growth on herself. And she recently after they got done having their latest album together on April Fool's, and it was not an April Fool's joke, they kicked her out of that band. And now everyone is trying to encourage her to be a solo artist. I think she's going to do it, but I'm not positive. So what is your influences or your inspiration to musicians like her who are in the situation and want to get into a solo artist? What's your guys' inspiration for that?
Who was this person, or are you purposely not mentioning them?
I'm personally not mentioning her because she's not here.
Okay.
I will give you the information later on.
So,
but what is your inspiration feedback to show her that she can do it on her own, just like you ladies have done?
Be brave. I wrote a song when my youngest son decided to take a gap year in between high school and college. And I was afraid for him. I was worried about him. And then it just occurred to me that doing something wonderful, taking this risk. I wrote a song called Don't Wait. And the chorus goes, don't wait to open up your heart. Don't wait to give it all you've got. Don't wait. And that's what I would say to her. Don't wait. You have nothing to gain by waiting to open up your heart and give it all you got. That's it. Just go. Be brave.
I like that. I'm just struck by what you said. I'm wanting to know more of the details. But ultimately, if a person was losing weight for someone else, that never ends up working out. Like, have you noticed how change really only happens if we do it for ourselves?
And she did it for herself.
What's that?
Yeah, she did it for herself.
Well, I'm just as far as the business goes, it doesn't hurt to be, more the weight that you're supposed to be. But I would say for health reasons, I would move in that direction. But that wasn't your question. I think first of all, find out if you're really drawn to doing things solo. But it took me a few years to get comfortable with being a solo artist. I still don't like the word artist. I was so used to relying on a band to feel sort of the strength of that. I mean, my rhythm was always pretty good because I was in a few formative, great bands in which I was the rhythm player. So was put in my place with how important that was. And they were right. Because what we think is in tempo and in time is one thing. And here's something to add to the teaching element: is get yourselves a metronome, folks. Practice with a metronome. First of all, it's great because it's telling you the truth, and it's like having a conductor there. And people that think they're in time, not even talking about drumming, but that's an absolute with drumming. But in general, I think what throws me off of listening to someone is when their tempo changes, but when their rhythm is so out of time. I think I can handle listening to someone if they're like clockwork, and not talking about things that you would change because the music calls for it to emphasize a certain pattern or whatever. But so back to the solo thing, I begrudgingly became a solo artist. And now I think I'm pretty strong at it. And it came from just having to do it. Because I didn't have a band there. But I would say if you're drawn to it, don't let anything get in your way. And also don't follow any fads. They all blow over anyway. I wish I had listened to that thought, because even though I thought I was being original, I think I was still in my head feeling shamed by what I was hearing I should be. Even though I was acting like, no, I'm my own woman, I'm my own person, but I was still feeling the shoulds. I mean, we can't not be.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I got two more questions for you, ladies. Okay, go ahead, Elly. Say something?
No, just say
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I got two more questions for you guys, and we're going to wrap this up. Okay. one other
Have some
question.
fun questions.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun
We
question.
love you, but could we have some fun questions?
Yeah, you're gonna have a fun question right now. What is share the most memorable and fun experience being a music? What is the best memory ever?
Unmentionable.
Unmentionable.
I'm going to ask you about that. Off.
Oh, I just said that.
Yeah. Well, I very recently had one of the most fun performances ever, which was at the Paramount Theater in Peekskill, New York, which is a beautiful, beautiful old theater that's been lovingly restored and taken over by a nonprofit. And I had a spot there opening the show for the Fabulous Thunderbirds, which if
That
you're
is
not
so
familiar,
fabulous.
if you don't know, they've been around for 30 years. It's a big, noisy blues band. And they wanted us.
Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
That's that band.
Wow.
They wanted a soloist to open, and I got the gig. And it's a large house, and it was full. It was packed.
Wow.
And the lights and the sound and it was big. And I guess what made it a peak moment for me is that I wasn't the least bit nervous.
Wow.
Really?
I got out on that stage and I could only see a few people in the front because of the lights. So I didn't have that sense of, oh my God, look at all these people looking at me. And when you're relaxed on stage, and Marianne, I know you'll agree with this, when you're relaxed on stage, your timing is great. It's like fluid and you're not anticipating and rushing notes and stuff. And I had chosen the right songs, a combination of traditional songs and original songs. And I said the right things, and I could tell from the moment I started with a basically vocal solo, and just like, you hear yourself fill up the house, and you can get this feeling that people are with you. And I was so happy to be there and so relaxed. And it just felt so good. It felt like I always wanted. It was like a reminder, you play so many gigs that are so, why do I do this? Ugh, why do I subject myself to this? And this was the answer. So I was like, oh, this is why I do this. And I closed the set with Get Together, and Jesse Colin Young had passed like a week before that. So people were like, oh, everybody sang along, and it just, everything worked. Everything worked. And it was just that was my peak musical experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of the things that's so great about that is that the combination of you getting the gig in the first place and the lights. I know those stages where you have lights on you and you can't see the audience. My reaction is, by the way, the opposite. It feels daunting, but you made it your own, is my point. I'm affirming that you walked out and you made it your own already. You were already succeeding by walking on stage in that place. That's really
There's an interesting
incredible
thing about, there's an artist named Vance Gilbert who does performance coaching. And one of the things that I learned from him was perfect for this situation is like, you can't stand up there with your eyes closed. You're shutting the audience out. You have to appear like you're looking at people, but you can't really look at people because that'll be distracting. So you gaze as if you're looking at people all around. And because I couldn't actually see anybody, It
have
was
to make it up.
perfect. It was perfect. My eyes were open, and it looked like I was encompassing the whole
Yeah.
crowd, even though I couldn't see them at all, which made it much more comfortable.
That's why I take off my glasses.
Yeah, you don't really want to see them.
Both
It's
both
a good
because
tip. Thank you, Vance, wherever you are.
he's still on the planet, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know he coached. Yeah, I like him.
He does great performance coaching. He's
that's
really
good to know.
good at it.
Yeah, that's great.
What about you, Marianne?
So, name the question again. Oh, what was it? Okay, well, besides the unmentionable one, which I'm still trying to think of, the unmentionable one is also the one I forgot, you see.
Right. Okay, all right.
It's its own, like,
little story.
Yeah, its own story that has yet to be revealed to me. You didn't ask about my first acid experience, did you?
No.
That elicits a laugh right here.
All right, you got it.
I think certain things like happen retroactively for me. Like I'll look back and realize what an amazing experience something was. Like, you're not going to believe this, those that know the blues, but I had Clarence Gatemouth Brown sit in with my band, and I have it on tape. But that's because, and I didn't know who he was at the time.
Oh my goodness!
And but I've got it on tape. But the reason that he did was because my drummer, who's an amazing drummer, Waldo Latowski, was touring with him. And the sax player that would come and sit in, Dennis, from time to time, was also performing with them. But I would say, just in general, so it was great. I got a chance to perform for about a year with John Hall. That's John Hall of Orleans, not Hall and Oates. And that was really a great time. I think times I've been able to be given the sort of the floor with regard to playing electric slide, when I feel like I'm being trusted and I can go on, and not feel like, okay, you get your verse and that. So I'm not thinking of any one in particular, but I think times on stage where I'm being trusted in a band like that. And then lastly, the most exciting thing is really what I'm doing now with playing English horn. I'm playing English horn in a quartet where most of what we perform is not written down, and yet it is Michael Bizio. This is not a cut to him at all. His compositions include improv, but he trusts the players so much that we go off. And so when we did a CD release party, I was thinking to myself, there's no point in asking what was not going to be answered, which was, how are we going to do that? Because we're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. But we did certain, parts of pieces. I'm smiling because I'm thinking of the fact that one of the players, Joe McPhee, was not schooled in what we were going to be doing, and he showed up late. So he didn't show up to even the half-hour rehearsal we had before the CD release party. So it reminds me of, it ended up working out well, but have you ever seen those videos? There's a few out there where an orchestra is really performing and a cat walks in.
Oh, I see those.
And of course takes the stage because we're all fastened to the cat. And a few people, in classical music, you never leave your music or your page, but there are a few little looks, but you would never ever stop doing what you're supposed to do on the page. My joke about that is, by the way, if you want a classical player to do something like jump off a cliff, make sure you put it in the music, and they actually will. And they'll say, which way would you like me to face? What do you want me to be wearing when I jump off the cliff? But anyway, certain people were not schooled in the music we were going to play. And it was really funny, and it worked out well when we performed. This happened on Easter, April 20th. We did a CD release at Lace Mill. So that was exciting. Meanwhile, I was chuckling. It's like, that's not what's on the page. Oh, and I look back and he doesn't even have music. We had
Oh
music.
no.
Didn't even have, because Michael knew that if he put music up there, he wasn't going to follow it anyway. So that's what we had. It worked out really, really well.
Good. All righty. One more question, and then we're going to wrap this up. So, if all the places you want to perform at, what is the dream performance you want to go at? What stage you want to be on? Your ultimate dream.
Oh dear. Marianne, do you have an answer yet?
No.
Okay. The dream is big.
Like a venue.
A venue, stage, anywhere.
Well,
You can go to.
Here, I have a recurring fantasy about performing. And if this happens, we're all in trouble. Because my fantasy is that I'm performing on a outdoor festival stage, and there are hundreds of thousands of people there, and I'm performing with a huge band, and as we're playing, aliens are coming down from the sky in their spaceships, and they're saying, "Oh, gee, it looks like humans aren't that bad, although they've totally wrecked their planet. So we're just gonna take them all up with us while we're playing this music."
But only the people that are really getting into the music.
Right.
Everybody's going.
Everybody?
Everybody's like turning into forms of light rather than forms of carbon. Okay, we are all losing our carbon-based form to get to this higher plane with beings that are much more evolved than we are.
Evolved.
That'll be fantastic music video.
Wow.
Yeah, right. I can see this and feel it.
Yeah. That's
Elly,
awesome.
I didn't know that be coming out of you, but I am transfixed. I can't.
Can you? Have you ever? I mean, I've had this vision for like
I'm envisioning it since you said it, and I don't.
Same here.
I'm horrible when people do those meditations where they take you on a visualization. They imagine a forest, and I always go off into some other place. I cannot follow, and maybe it's because it just seems so, dictatorial. But I totally imagine what you were talking about.
And I have the privilege of being on stage creating this music that's allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
I like it.
Now,
what about you?
When a UFO starts coming down here, I'm going to freak out.
I can't trump that.
You can't tell that, Marianne, I see you on that stage with.
There you go. It's when you guys are playing a duo together finally.
No, we have a whole orchestra. Yeah.
That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that. And I can't answer it beyond that.
Okay. All right. So here is a segment I like to do with my guests. Not all of them, but I'm going to do it here, is where I turn the show around where you two can ask me one question each, is basically putting me on the hot seat. So one question each.
But we didn't get to prepare for this.
Nope. Well, I mean, it is on the description, but I know this is what I do as a surprise. I don't do it all the time, though.
I would like to know where you see yourself in 25 years.
I see myself
Wait a minute, you have to start by telling us about how old you are.
Okay. So I've been going to school for a while, trying to rebrand this whole thing, and I'm gonna leak this out. What I'm going to be doing here this summer, I'm hoping, knock on wood, is that I've been watching a lot of van life videos, and so I'm actually got a van outside. I'm actually remodeling into my live-in van mobile studio, and I want to go around the world and do my podcast live. So that is what I wanted to go do. Somehow it will manage to go to Australia because I got friends in Australia I want to go visit. So that's what I'm planning on doing for the rest of my life, is just this and traveling.
Cool.
After I get my bachelor's degree, that's what I'm going to be doing. All right, Miss Marianne, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to formulate it.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves. No,
All right.
but it sounds plebeian, but I mean it more like really from the gut. What draws you to doing this kind of work that you're doing right now?
There is a band that I used to follow. They're no longer together anymore. They had a very unusual band name, and they were very positive and very outgoing guys and very, very talented. So I saw them trying to get their message out. People are always butchering their words. So I was like, well, there got to be other musicians out there who want to talk about their career or influence others that want to get the word out. And so I found there's thousands of you guys around that want to change the music industry or have this going on, or you want to have it unfiltered and not edit it and not show that your guys are all negative. I want to bring out the artistic and the hardworking musicians that don't get recognized. Part of my travels is that I want to go and discover musicians that is not even in the mainstream, like Renaissance fairs and fairs that people don't know about, and just go out there and give them a shout out. So that's what I'm drawn to.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I am planning on going to New York because the band that actually plays my theme song, Papa Satch, is actually in New York City. So they are my one people I want to go see. So I'll just broaden my horizon and see you ladies too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love your positivity.
Thank you.
Just the kind of the feeling that anything goes. I don't know what just happened in this last couple of hours. I'm sure you're going to edit it, but just that I could even feel remotely comfortable. Elly, you're a big part of that. And I thank you for that you've created that atmosphere, Shels.
You're very welcome. I want to make sure people are very positive, network with each other, connect with each other, whatnot. And so that's why I want to try to bring it out. So I'm happy you guys feel comfortable with here, even though you don't like half the questions that I found.
No, only one or two. Only one or two.
Okay, all right. All right,
That's
guys.
That's a pretty good record, and thank you for your interest and enthusiasm. And
you're very welcome.
Yes.
You're very welcome. All right, so show off. Where can we find you guys? What's your address, social media, and all that stuff? So,
Elly has a website. I
have a website that it's my name, EllyWininger.com, EllyWininger.com. And I'm also on, if you want to listen and maybe pay 99 cents for a track, I'm on Bandcamp, which I love, that it's a artist-owned website, not a commercial greedy website. So Bandcamp and my name. But yes, I have a website, and I try to keep my calendar up to date and all that stuff.
Wow.
Try.
It's amazing.
All right, Marianne, where can we find you?
Okay, I don't have a website. Now I can be found on Facebook in two places. I have two aliases, and now that I can get back to my old me, I don't know if I want to go there. But one would be my name, Marianne Osiel. And there's plenty of videos there. And now I'm also my alias, which is Moxie Muse, MoxieMews, which is pun intended in my interest in cats, shall we say. And to say, if somebody is interested, okay, so now I have 3 official CDs. I've had others that I've burned for people, but Strange Girl is the singer-songwriter CD, and it's got oboe and it's got strings on it. And How the Light Gets In is a record I did featuring myself on oboe and English horn in duet with 4 different keyboard players from New York, from piano to John Simon on piano, Jordan Rudez from Dream Theater on synthesizer, Denman Maroney on prepared piano, and Bob Barrows on pipe organ. And then the last CD I'm on is called NUMBQ, and that's on Mahakala music. But if you were going to find yourself, if you were interested in a real CD, at this point, it's hard to say it, but you would need to write me directly. And that would be
And
it.
soon, if I have
Facebook.
anything to say about it, Marianne will have a Bandcamp site with all her music on it.
Good.
You can go
Good.
to and buy stuff.
Thank you for saying that, Ellie, because it took a lot to not interrupt you about Bandcamp, because I wanted to find out what the percentage of that 99 cents is that the artists get, but we can talk about it.
Yes. Let me tell you, the vast majority.
Wow.
Now I do.
Somebody had said that to me long ago, and I just didn't believe them. So, you know, in this weird world, you never know whether something's real or not.
So I'll be writing a blog for this episode on every single episode. So once you have her Bandcamp up, send it to me so I can add it to the blog.
But I'm going to add one more thing, which is that what people have been known to do, and I can't blame them, even though it just kills me each time, is people have written me, going, I love your music, so I went on Amazon and I got, and so it ends up being either a used copy someone's selling, and I'm glad that I'm popular that I'm selling all the time,
bootleg.
Or a new copy that somehow wound up with someone.
That's why
you're not getting it from me. So if you do care about the artist, I will just like to end with, write me directly. My email is marianneosiel118@gmail.com. So it's my name 118@gmail.com. And soon, within the next year, I will have a real website. I'm starting to work with someone.
Awesome.
I had one many
But in
years
the meantime, you're going to be on.
In the meantime,
or I'll kill you.
Ellie's going to help set me up. That was a nice way of putting it. She's going to kill me. So either I won't be here and it won't matter.
Awesome.
It will have gone up with the aliens, or I'll be on Bandcamp soon.
Good. All right, ladies. I want to thank you so much for being part of me here. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Namaste.
And all that.
Namaste.
All that.
All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk About the Music. I hope you enjoyed today's topic. Remember, the show is more than just a podcast. It's a multimedia experience. You can enjoy the content as a blog, a both audio and visual format, or stay tuned to connect with other conversation. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that subscribe button. As that way you'll never miss an episode. Also, be sure to sign up for our newsletter for our latest update and exclusive content. Until next time, grab your headphones or tune in visually and let's keep that music journey together. Let's talk music, because the music is everywhere.